When the price of Bitcoin breaks through resistance levels, a natural question is asked: is it too late to buy Bitcoin? Have I missed out on the lows? Should I be buying cryptocurrencies now in case I never see these prices again? In this video, I want to go through a few metrics that I personally use to determine whether I can wait if I have time to buy Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies later, or I should be jumping on the bandwagon, going all in the FOMO that occurs when the price breaks through some resistance. Without further ado, smash the likes, subscribe to the channel, bell notification icon, check out the links to our Patreon group, trade alerts, portfolio allocations, and Q&As down below. And of course, you can check out Bybit. There is a Ethereum giveaway down there, $4,000 to 4 lucky viewers exclusive to this channel and Michael's channel. All right, the first thing I want to have a quick look at is the market caps, and just giving us an update for today, 2.1 trillion. We're above some resistance levels, and a lot of these other cryptos in the top 10, top 20 are starting to outperform Bitcoin. So naturally, I get the feeling that, are we missing out on the lows? And I often get that question. Now, the first thing I want to look at is the time frame that you have with your portfolio. Are you wanting to trade daily, weekly, hourly, or are you looking more long-term, monthly to yearly? So that's the first big thing here. For me, my portfolio is structured in a few different ways. I have a long-term, I have a trading portfolio. For trading, I'll look at days to weeks, sometimes even months. But for my long-term, I'm looking at months to years. So when I'm making my decisions, looking at the charts, and of course, taking into consideration some of the fundamentals that are going on, then I'll look at longer-term plays. I'll look at monthly charts, maybe even weekly or 2 weekly charts, to give me an idea of what the market is doing. Say Bitcoin or Ethereum from the longer term holds, that's what I'm going to focus my attention on rather than the day-to-day news, the day-to-day charts, or even the hourly charts. I want to have a macro view so I can make my decisions for those. So that's first thing. Yes, we can get swept up with the emotions of day-to-day price movements and maybe we missed out on the lows, but really we're not going to know that until after the fact. So ideally, all we want to do is just take a chunk of profits out of the middle of the market, or at least that's my goal when I'm investing. I just want to take a chunk out of the middle. I don't need the exact low and I don't need to sell the exact top. So the next thing I want to have a look at is the Google Trends. So at the moment, I don't think I'm too late to the party. You guys can make up your own minds, but I'm going to look at Google Trends as well because the search term for Ethereum only is just starting to tick up. NFTs have had a later boom than the rest of the market and have since dropped off. Bitcoin, of course, had its highs in 2021 and has dropped off from that point. And also crypto has gone on a very short or quiet period and then picked up in 2021 and has since dropped off from that point. So if I look back in 2018, 2019, there were a couple of extreme cases that it felt like extreme FOMO. 2019 is one of those examples. June of 2019, we had that peak in Bitcoin where it ran from about 3.5 to 4 grand, and then it broke through $4,000 and ran all the way to $14,000 in a few short months. And so the FOMO came into the market. Are we going to miss out? We should be buying all these cryptocurrencies. And then nothing happened for a few months. The market went sideways, dumped, and then we had that final capitulation low through the COVID crash. Then, of course, another few more months, the market built back and took off. So I'm just looking at the Google search trends here, the interest, the search volumes. I don't think that I'm yet to see the search volumes really, really pick up and take off into new all-time highs, especially after we've been at all-time highs for 2021. Personally, I'm looking at this as needing a little more time. So, to answer the question, is it too late? Personally, I don't think so. The next thing I'm looking at is my fear and greed index. So I've just got a simple plan here, and we've shared this with our members of Patreon. So you can see the fear and greed plan here, purchasing Bitcoin, the dates, the reasons, how much, the total amount of Bitcoin that's there, and then some of the entry triggers and exit triggers that we discuss in a little more detail, as it takes a bit of time to develop your own solid plan. So if you haven't already, get something like that together. It'll help so much, especially at the lows. Average price at the moment of purchasing Bitcoin using this plan, $35,473. Round numbers, let's call it $35,500. The return so far, they're about 33%. Price of Bitcoin today, 47,000 and the profit is 6,000. So this just helps with the fear and the greed when it comes to buying Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. This is at 60 today. So the greed is at 60. And personally, I don't like to buy Bitcoin or crypto, even if the price is lower now than it is in the future. I don't want to buy on those greeds. I'd rather be buying on the fear or the extreme fear. And that is just because it's how I've set it up in my plan. More often than not, it's not 100% guarantee, but more often than not, if I'm buying through those fearful times in the market, extreme fear, in this case, we're looking at buying at extreme fear of 15 or less than 15. So equal to or less than 15. So nice, clearly defined rules here. Then I'll be buying Bitcoin in this zone here, 10 to 20. And you can see I'm buying it through here as well, which lines up with this particular document. And so that just helps remove the FOMO when the market does start to take off. Now, Bitcoin dominance is another thing that I'll look at to give me an idea of what's going on with cryptos, what's going on with ETH. We saw Bitcoin go on a run here from January. So although Bitcoin wasn't moving that much in price, mid 30s to mid 40s, the rest of the cryptos were taking a bit of a hit, and also ETH was taking a bit of a hit. At the moment, we've come off some short-term rejection, and the Bitcoin's underneath the trend line. So what I've got here is ETH run exhausted. That's if Bitcoin dominance starts to trend up, and I will think maybe I'm not too late. This is another signal that I'll look at here, because ETH is starting to pull back, but obviously I'll also look at some of the TA there. If ETH is having a bit of a cool down, then I tend to think maybe cryptos won't be popping off as well. So if Bitcoin dominance drops, therefore more of that dominance will probably go into the top cryptocurrencies. It could be stablecoins, could be Binance, which is also in the top there. You've also got XRP, ADA, Solana, etc. Obviously Luna. So I'm looking at that dominance just to give me an idea. Are cryptos going to take off, or is it still Bitcoin's turn to take some of the dominance, or at least hold some of the assets, some of the money in the market while the rest of the market starts to fall away? The Bitcoin price. So just looking at the chart here of Bitcoin on a monthly chart, taking all of the noise off the chart, the lines, all that sort of stuff, we've got a few months down. So the peak came in November, 2 months essentially, with probably half a month here of the market moving down. But now we're started to move back, and we have a higher high and higher lows forming in the market. So stepping back into a macro view, I'm just looking at the months, counting how many months we've had down. Like we saw from April to the low in June, basically 2 months. So lower highs, lower lows in this case. Again, same sort of thing, a couple of months here. In the past, we've seen multiple months form before the market had a bit of a relief rally, final dumps, and then the market moved again. So from that peak in June of 2019, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down, essentially the price wasn't going any higher at that stage for those 6 months. A couple of months up, dump, and then we reversed again. Same sort of thing for 2018. And these are, of course, different periods in the market. You can have a longer bear market, shorter bear markets, and this time we've only got a couple of months. So I would naturally expect a relief rally to occur at some point before we retest some of the lower prices to see if the market's ready to move on again. Dropping the time frame down to a weekly chart, I want to look for resistance levels, because the market that has to come back and hit some resistance levels, test them. Maybe it slices through, maybe it doesn't. We don't know at this point, but we just have them on the chart to give us an idea of where the market could find resistance. So my 50% level is at around $51,000 for Bitcoin. Is it too late to buy? I want to see what happens when the market gets to that level. What happens with buyers and sellers when we get to around 50 to 52,000? Are the sellers going to step in and push the price down? How far can they push the price down? And if that happens to fall back under the previous resistance zones, and then I would think this is probably weaker, and we might see some other lows try to form between that 33 to about $46,000. So in that case, even though the lows may be higher, because we have the first low in January of 33,000, the next low in February, exactly a month later, coming in at 34,000, maybe we have a higher low that sets in near this accumulation area that we can see from all these other closes. So we've got just in this little section here of the high $30,000. So maybe we do get a move up, and then at some point, maybe there's some zigzagging back down to come back and test this zone again to potentially form a base. So if that's the case and I see a higher low, then for my own strategy, I don't see this as too late to buy back into Bitcoin. I'll just say, look, we've come back and tested some previous support levels and we're starting to find some support on that again. So I'm happy waiting those extra few weeks or few months to get in at potentially higher prices than what it was through here. But we may have seen the market move up to 50 and come back into this zone here. So I'm just waiting to see what happens in that case, because I do think we have a little more time left in this market to come into a new low. Maybe it's a lower low, meaning lower than 33,000. Maybe it's a higher low, like I just said there at about 38,000. The point is, it doesn't really matter 33 or 38. The point is we're going to be waiting a period of time to test whether that is the next final low, or if it's a higher low, we'll also know that as well. But these markets tend to not just shoot straight up from this support zone. Therefore, I'm using that in my plan, and I don't think it's too late to be waiting to see what happens next. Next, I look at the total market caps as well, just to see where their resistance levels are. And like we talked about in a few days ago on one of the videos, the total market cap was around 1.96. Since then, we've climbed a few percent and we're up at $2.1 trillion. So this is for all of the market caps. Now I've got my 50% level up here at about 2.25 trillion. And I'm looking to that as another resistance zone, as where we currently are is also a small resistance zone. You can see here from that previous high, that's previous swing top before the market tanked. So that's at 2.07. Now I'm looking for the market to see how it reacts here, whether it comes down a little bit, bursts through and takes on that 50% level at 2.25, or if we get rejected and come back down, then this would be negative for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the cryptocurrency market because it's a total market cap. So that's why I don't think it's too late to be buying at this point. I think there's still quite a lot of tests to come about. And also looking at the total market cap 3, which it would basically total 3, which takes off Bitcoin and Ethereum. Similar sort of analysis, just looking at the same thing. Are we going to hit resistance on the downtrend, or are we going to come through, hit 50% and come back and test those levels at a slower pace, which gives us time for 2022, looking at accumulation. Remember, no one knows what's going to happen in the market. We just use technical analysis to give us an idea of what the smart money is doing and look at what their footprint is in the market before the news tells us. So having determined, is it too late to buy Bitcoin? Is it still early enough to wait and have that patience, even though the FOMO can really kick in? As we pass 46,000, maybe we pass 50,000, maybe we go 52, get rejected and come all the way back. So basically this time is that FOMO period before maybe we see some more greed again because we're at lower prices. Now I've got that determined. What happens with finding stronger cryptocurrencies? What I look for is where were the major lows. So let's take a look back at Bitcoin, and we can see the major lows came in May, June, July. So this was a significant bearish period that we're going to pay attention to. The last significant period was around that February and late January low. And then of course that current low in January of 2022. So they're significant periods. So looking at Luna, macro view here, not the day-to-day stuff where the price can swing 10, 20, 30% in a day. I'm looking for longer term positions to set up, almost set and forget, but I'm still an active investor. I want to look for what's going on in the price compared to those significant low periods. So for Luna, the significant lows are May, June, July, just like most other cryptocurrencies at time. And although it doesn't look like it on the chart, this is very significant, just at a few bucks. I've got it on log. If the market is able to hold above these levels, which I almost am certain that it will for Luna, at least in this period of the next stage, then this is looking like a much stronger crypto than something else, for example, like Theta, not to pick on it if you're holding it or anything like that, but just for educational purposes. We can see that Theta, May, June, July period is back here, and the market is finding resistance at that point at the moment. So this could mean that Theta can actually break above, but it's not in as strong of a position as something like Luna because it's all the way back down at those prices. whereas Luna is far from those prices and setting up for another move higher. Now, I should say that that is a potential move higher. There are no guarantees in the market, but all we're doing here is just trying to figure out what's strong versus what's weak, similar to what you do with fundamentals. Why is a project stronger than another project when you compare their fundamentals? The same sort of thing here, and you're trying to figure out who and how many investors are going to come into the market to be able to pump this price for us. FTT is another one. You can see the lows at May, June, July. They've moved away from it, and the lows are coming in higher at the moment. This can always come up and then break back lower as well. With that in mind, we know that there are no guarantees, but again, we're just trying to gauge what projects are looking stronger, which projects are being held by bigger, smarter money, because of course, if they're holding it and not dumping it out, if they would have dumped it, it would have broken through some of those support levels, but they're holding it at this point, then hopefully we're on the right side of the market and we can move to those higher prices when the market begins to become more bullish, go into extreme greed, and we take off to the moon again for the next stage of that cryptocurrency bull market. If you enjoyed that and you want to learn more, check out the link to Patreon in the description down below. A free newsletter is also coming out this week on Wednesday, so get your email addresses in for that. Looking at real estate, crypto, and traditional markets. Like and subscribe. Links are all down there. See you guys at the next video. Until then, have more fun to get more done.